So welcome back to FinTech Festival India, everyone. It is now time to move on to our next session, which is a fireside chat on thinking customer backwards and building payment solutions for the future. So moderating this conversation is Amit Jain, partner at Cedar Management Consulting International. Amit is joined on this table by Vikas Bansal, director, Amazon Pay India. So over to you, Amit. Please take this forward.
Thanks, Gitanjali, and welcome, Vikas. Good morning, good afternoon to all the people who've joined in from I hope all corners of the world. It's a privilege to have a conversation with Vikas. Vikas Bansal, as you may all know, is with Amazon. He has over 25 years of experience in this financial technology industry. He's worked with organizations like Amazon, with Fiserv previously, with Visa and American Express. Vikas, a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Because we've seen I think heading straight into the conversation, into the topic, right? Again, I've been curious to ask this question, right? Or, there is a lot of action that's happened in the last 5 years in the fintech industry, and payments is like the lead. The payments industry is one of the most dominant factors there, right? So, and specifically in the last 2 years with COVID, right? So, just want to hear your views on what are the triggers or the milestones that have exponentially led to the growth of this industry.
Yeah, no, it's great, and as you said, we are witnessing some phenomenal rise in digitization of India and financial services penetration. And if you look back, hello. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Vikas.
Yeah. So I was just saying, sorry about that connection. So one is around the technology, right? And whether there was the Aadhaar stack, and then building on top of it the financial services stack, and then the UPI, which really provided the interoperable, instant mobile-based payments, that really worked for customers as well as for merchants, right? Where they were not yet enabled. And on the consumer trend side, when we look at it, starting with demonetization, right? That was a huge enabler where suddenly people realized that paying in cash is no longer available, and really have to adopt digital payments. And from there, I also feel like the COVID has also played a very critical role, where cash again became foreign and people were very averse to using cash in the fear of getting infection. And we've seen a fundamental shift in paying in a contactless fashion, which is digital, whether it was through mobile phone by scanning a QR code, or through tap and pay using their credit or debit cards, and the like. So that has really fueled the next level of growth in digital payments. And then the third thing, which is going on in India, which is unlike some of the other countries globally, is the very emergence of a very Gen, we call millennials and Gen Z population, which, they are very digitally inclined. First, to adopt digital payments, they are inclined to try new things. they don't have a deep embedded, habits of using cash. And that's a very also a trend that has really played out very well in the last 6 years, in terms of digital payments. So I think it's a combination of, and then the last is enabling regulation. I think the regulator has been very progressive in terms of starting with the creating the UPI based system to then allowing, increasing the limits, increasing the penetration, and some of the innovations, around many, so those have also enabled. So I think it's a combination of
I think it's the
technology,
environment and it's the
customer, and yeah,
facility, yeah, environment and the ecosystem that's looking has made it cordial, or
yeah,
maybe the growth friendly for all, because all the all stakeholders in the ecosystem are progressing well. So
yeah.
again, in terms of trends, so what do you see are the key trends moving forward? Because I may have some thoughts around that, and because I want to hear from you in terms of where do you see the next frontier of growth, or what are the critical trends from your perspective or from Amazon's
Yeah.
perspective?
Absolutely. I think one is we talked about, right, that this emergence of this population, and then what tied to that is their habits of digital payments and also being credit hungry. I think typically, traditionally, India has been very credit starved, right? We all talk about 3 to 4% of the customers or consumers have access to credit cards. And one of the key emerging phenomena is around buy now, pay later, right? And this is a trend which is catching on because it really solves, when we look at it, what are the problems that exist is, one, I want to I want to pay digitally, contactlessly, right? Two, I want to be able to expand my budgets and get credit to live and fulfill my aspirations, right? And then also get into the credit full system. And then that's a very key trend. That's one that I kind of emerging.
Yeah,
And if I just may talk about just a couple more, and then we can
sure,
dive into
sure,
them.
sure.
The other, like we started out, right? We used to be cash economy, then cards came in, to then phone-based payments came in, and then the next frontier, I really believe, is around voice, sound, and voice, and we're already seeing that play out in other industries globally. That we really almost from there to we become invisible or embedded payments, whether they are authenticated by different ways, biometric ways of paying. So there's many things, innovations going on, and we can talk a bit more about it, but just wanted to mention a couple.
Yeah, I've always been so that's useful, because but I've always been curious to and I'm posing this question back at you, right? Again, while BNPL is a phenomena or is a emerging trend right now, but I've always thought that with the if you just break the words up, buy now and pay later, hasn't that been in existence for a very very long time, in terms of whatever we did via the credit cards, and we were availing EMIs. So how, if, for the audience's sake and personally for my sake, if you can just tell me the differentiator in terms of BNPL versus the credit card EMI.
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you look at it, right, yeah, we all had an option, and credit card has been in existence for years, right? Even in India. I think what see where credit card worked and why we did not have the penetration we needed was, that it was difficult to underwrite because of the lack of digital footprint, the kind of lines it needed, the kind of process it needed. So it needed to be at a certain threshold for certain set of customers to be really viable business, right? And serve the needs of the customers. Now, what to me the and then credit card EMIs were tied to that. I think where buy now pay later is really, and it was also largely offline processes, like you go and apply for a credit card, and then you fill up all of your paperwork and you get it, right? And that's been, so that's why we've only seen 3% adoption in the country. Now, what buy now pay later is fundamentally changing that. Let's contrast it, right? That one, from offline, it's moving online into the moment of truth when you're buying something. So it's very now embedded into your purchase or retail journey, right? That's one. Two, it's become completely digital, where instead of paperwork and all of that, now you can actually sign up in less than 60 seconds, right? Three, people who were earlier not being able to underwrite because of the data, and because it needed to be certain lines, now they can be underwritten with very smaller lines to get started and get into the credit and the digital fold, right? So all of these things, when it is instant, it's embedded in the purchase path, it is completely digital, and it is also more coverage. All of these are kind of, very important things that buy now, pay later has, which typically the others do not have. And then the business model is also, because of all of these other things, the business model also works. And then it also really good for customers, because now you can start to get into the credit system early, build your credit profile. And then later on, when you're ready to, buy or things like get a home or buy a car or other things, that you already have a footprint for you to make it easier for you later. So I think this is a really win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's fundamentally different in buy now, pay later, what's going on versus what existed.
Yeah, I think that's true. Cedar has a business IBS intelligence, and we've recently done some research, which we do some research on financial technology, and we've and buy now pay by BNPL, at least from an India perspective, is only like the adoption has been fast growing, but again we've not even scratched the surface sort of a thing, right? And there is a long way to go. So what are again, if I wanted to understand what are organizations like your organization doing in order to make it easy or incentivize the customers to increase the adoption, right? So what are the key things over and above what you've currently done in terms of increasing the adoption of BNPL?
Yeah. So one is, how we continue to make it easy for customers to sign up, right? So we partnered and we continue to partner with lenders to say, how can we make it easy for you, right? And then and then we are already proud that our journey is like less than 60 seconds. You can sign up and do it, right, and use it. Then the other thing is, today when we look at it, there's a lot of innovation going on in the industry to say, like, can we make this more like omni-channel, right? From online, it started with online to online and offline, to make sure that I can cover very wide gamut of use cases. So I think there's a lot of innovation you see in the market with through card program or even through UPI program. And we are also continue to invest to say, hey, customers can can find more and more ways that they can pay, right? Whether they are online, they're offline, wherever they are. So that's another key one, that we have. The third thing, we are also wanting to, also sort of build the financial management discipline to say, how do you really use this more, right? More in a way that you don't get into any traps. So we do a lot of things upfront to make sure our lenders only give customers who they can pay, right? Who they have capacity to pay and not over leverage.
Yeah.
But then also inculcate that habit and discipline to say, with reminders, on things that are going on, and then how you can build more and more financial management discipline. So that's another one, because what we want to do is not want to get into a debt trap, but more like make this as a way to empower, right, and independence and build for the future. So I would say those are the 2, 3 big. There's a lot of innovation going on. I mean, we've just scratched the surface. I think you said that, but these things will help us to take this, right, this offering, I really think, to next 300 million customers, or even more in India.
I think it's very interesting where you talk about use the word trap, right? I think we've just done some research again in the the European area, in European market, where I think BNPL has grown and has seen rapid success. But again, we're beginning to see the risks associated with it, right? I think it's often said it's easy to lend money, but the success is in collecting it and connecting it on a timely manner, right? But I'm sure with the tools that you are being incentivizing people to increase adoption of BNPL, it'll also come with some risks, right? So again, I'm sure you guys have done a thorough process or validation process. So what are the risk mitigation factors that get put into place to from a BNPL risk perspective?
No, I think one is about to make sure you only give this option to customers, right, who have the capacity, right, to pay. So unlike some of the programs in India, globally, right, we do our lenders do full KYC and credit checks, right, or for each customer. So that's one very important, right? The second thing, which which is extremely important is on customer lifecycle management. And what I mean by that is, that you made a point of time decision, right? To, let's say, to give this person, say, 10,000 rupees, right? Based on their profile. Now, this person gets promoted and they have now better capacity. They've got married, then there are many life events. And can we then continue to assess and then increase, increase their lines and other things based on those life events, right? It becomes very important. But at the same time, if we're seeing, that there is some stress because, somebody would have lost the job or other things, is that how do you adjust? Because you don't want to get them into the debt trap, again, to that point. So then you can adjust it down. I think the key for us, as well as I think for industry, is almost have a real-time instant customer lifecycle management where you're continuously improving on their dimension, optimizing both up and down, and then also making it very convenient, right? Because regulations also require you to sort of be very transparent to the customers and doing that in the where the customers are. And then the other part of it is in collection. And you're right, this is a collection business. I have fundamental belief, it's not this is buy now pay later. It is all about collections. To have a sustainable business model is about early warning system. Is that can you track? Can you spot those trends early? And that's where we also investing, so that before it becomes too late, right? So those are some of the things I think that those are really important for risk management.
And I also believe that organizations like you also have an added advantage, right? Because you have a very, very in-depth understanding of the customer, their buying pattern, their transaction history, their repayment history, and also on the other side, again, you all have a very good understanding even of the merchants, right? Again, in terms of the quality of the product that they are selling and so on and so forth, right? So with that, Vikas, I'd like to shift the gears of this conversation. And, we've obviously spoken about a lot of good things that you guys are doing for the customer, right? But again, a merchant is also a very, very critical part of this financial, ecosystem, right? In terms of even, from a BNPL perspective, the merchant also has to play a role, right? In terms of the quality of the merchant and in terms of empowering the merchant. So what are you guys doing in terms of from the merchant side of things, right? So what pain points of the merchants are you addressing, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's financial or technology.
Yeah, no, I think it goes back to basics, right? That what are their problems today? Their problems are, one, that they were only accepting payments in cash. When they were only accepting payments in cash, really nobody really knows unless, about what their sales are, and then also they cannot get formally into a credit system, right? So one of the key things that as Amazon Pay we have focused on is, right, to really digitize these small businesses by accepting basic digital payments. So we are already in more than 80 lakhs, in 350 plus tier towns and cities in India, and we're growing very rapidly. And so you start making them, accept digital payments. And from there also, right, because, why not you have more channels for your sales? Today you have customers that are already in your, that come in your store. Can you also improve, your customer base so that they can come and sell on Amazon, right? Amazon Marketplace. And then suddenly, like, I was only having access to these customer base in my neighborhood. Now I have customers access to all over India, right? And then the other one is like, look, if you're already there and if the customers are more digitally savvy, is can you actually bring all of their selection catalog on the app so that the customers can, look at it, read reviews, and then make a decision, and then use everything that they can use to pay online. They can also use to pay in offline stores, right? Because there's cashbacks, there's all of these payment options. So we're doing a lot of innovation, what we call smart stores, in which, the entire selection can be on the app, customer can browse it and then pay, right? And then walk away with the item from the store. So those are, and then the other thing I talked about, right? Just like consumer, small businesses are also credit deprived, and it's a fundamental systemic problem, again, tying to the same problems. And then we are also doing a lot of investments in that, for small businesses that are selling on Amazon, small businesses that are buying on Amazon from our B2B marketplace, right? Or small businesses that are accepting payments. There are multiple dimensions, there are multiple type of those.
Yeah.
And how can we help them get more instant, low cost, loans that can help them grow, and in a very transparent fashion, because the philosophy, as Amazon, right, is all about customer or merchant backwards, right, or small business backwards, is that anything that you do is super clear on what they're getting, and it's got to be better than the alternative, right, that
Yeah.
exists for them. So there's just some of them. There's so much to talk about, but there are some
Yeah.
of these that I'm
And I
like,
think over here also, just the way you have it on the customer side, even on the merchant side, I think you guys have an inherent advantage, right? Again, you know the, perhaps softer aspects, like, the rating of the
yeah,
merchant in terms of the customer giving a particular rating on either on the product that he's selling on the, or on the merchant umbrella, right?
yeah,
So you guys have that kind of data coming in on a relatively on a real time basis. So that
yeah.
obviously makes your credit decisioning a bit more, less vulnerable, if I may say, if you had to finance some of these short-term needs of some of the merchants who are on your platform.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and and eventually, yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, it's a lender decision.
Yeah.
But I think where we help with is, how do you help bridge the gap again with a very transparent way, for small businesses to say, hey, can I use some of these signals, more effectively? And then if the answer is yes, yeah, the lender will use those signals to do it, which I think you're right, exactly right, because those are the signals that you need. And if somebody is bad actor, right, they're bad actor, and they would be bad actor everywhere. It'll be very hard to find them, doing good and then doing bad in some spots, right? So I think there's a fundamental thesis that if you're like very on a roll, you will be on a roll every opportunity you get. So I
Yeah.
think your intuition is very right in that way.
So again, just I think on the closing on this, on, in terms of, again, how have the NPAs been so far in terms of either on the BNPL side or on the merchant, I mean, again, from an industry perspective, I know it's early days, but again, is there a
Yeah.
view that you have currently on NPAs, or it's,
Yeah. So we don't disclose,
yeah,
the NPA numbers, but I'll tell you, like, it's again matter of inputs, right? The what will make your loss rates low, extremely low, to have a good business model is the inputs is whether you are extending credit to the right set of customers with the full checks, right? And I'm talking from a lender perspective, right? Two, do you have a good early warning signals to catch them early in their cycle, right? Three, are you optimizing your customer life cycle to be able to, dial up and down based on their life events in the thing? And top of it is like, are you able to nudge them where they are, right? Because that's also very important, because we also see a lot of customers just don't have bad intention. They either sometimes overlook it. It's like, I've forgotten my thing and can I be nudged to pay it? Or sometimes that I have an event that, our models didn't catch, and then can they get bit of help?
yeah.
And then, you give them help by sort of extending that within the terms and conditions, and then, in a transparent fashion. So all of these things
Yeah.
combine really important and matters. But one thing I'll say is that, I think we feel very proud, because on behalf of our lenders, I'm saying, like, we are one of the lowest in the country, both on the customers and on the small business side as well. And that's a reason, like, we have more and more, partners, both banks and non-banks, wanting to work with us, because those are the things, right, that collectively we can do better, for the industry and for ourselves.
So because from lending to collections, if I may move to another topic, which is again very interesting, and from an investments standpoint, right? Again, online investments, or with customers, or at least individual interest on perhaps purchasing some of the investment, again, making like a financial products marketplace, right? Again, I've also seen some uptake for that, right?
Yeah.
So whether they could make investments online, whether it's insurance, whether it's mutual funds, whether it's equity, whether the other areas. So what are what are your views in terms of either customer adoption uptake, and what are you guys doing to serve that need of the customer?
Yeah. And this is again where we came from, right? One is when I was growing up, right, one of the things where we only considered investment if we had money was either park it in real estate or park it in FDs, right, in a bank. That's all what we did, and the other money was already there in the savings bank. And that's how we've been. And we had, like, when you compare uh, our proportion of our investment in financial assets, when I call financial assets like mutual funds, debt funds and other things, compared to rest of the world, like we're really behind, right? In that. And then even in FDs, the only way to do FDs was, you walk into a branch and then you do it with where you bank, right? Where you have a bank account, or now you do it online, right? So from there is a lot of opportunity to say like that way you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So and or then there was another trends where you will work with kind of an like a financial services agent, right, who will help you to put the investments, but they will all be driven by commissions, right, which gives them the most commissions as opposed to which is the best for the customer. So I think we are now seeing a trend where with the technology that one you can really expand reach, and it was only available to selected people for a certain ticket size, right? To say like now the reach is very broad, and Amazon has that reach. A lot of players in with digital now you can reach anywhere, any part of the world, or any part of India rather. And the second part of it is then the ticket size you don't have, because there's no human in the middle. You can actually lower the ticket size, similar to buy now pay later, right? It's the same thesis. You can really lower the ticket size. I mean, people can invest up to 100 rupees. If they have 100 rupees, why not? Like, just put it in some good use. And then also being very transparent about what the risks are. So there is a tremendous opportunity to really now what I would say digitize investments away from real estate into smaller ticket size, into nook and corners of India. And that's the trend we are seeing. And then COVID, just like in lending, has accelerated that, because one, the people were sitting at home and wanting to do right this. Second, the markets were in the right in the right direction, moving in the right direction. And then lots of people, and we have data, industry has data, that lots of first time investors have come in the field. And that's the trend. And then still we're scratching the surface, just like others. We're still scratching the surface. So I think wealth tech is something that will grow. And similarly for FDs, right, is that if somebody else can give me 10%, no, not 10% is too much, let's say 6%, my bank gives me 3%, I deserve 6%. Why can't I get 6% with the same, right, kind of safety and security and kind of thing. So that's the trend in wealth tech. Same thing in insurance tech, right, that we're seeing in insurance, from offline. How do you make the process more efficient? And so we have investments, and we have launched the products in insurance, and where the customers can really get like very competitive price with a full digital experience buying. You can actually buy a new insurance policy, right, within like 1 to 2 minutes, end to end, and then you can claim completely digitally, without ever going to any paperwork. So I think those are some of the things, where we are scratching the surface, but the thesis is still the same. The trends are still very similar, whether you call the payments or the lending or wealth or even insurance tech, right? So just wanted to highlight.
No, I mean, again, I've also experienced, and there are some numbers that the number of I think mutual fund portfolios, or people, first time investors in mutual funds is been at an all-time high.
Yeah.
The number of people or individual customers, investors on NSE and BSE has been at an all-time high. So obviously there were, maybe 5-10 years ago, there were limited opportunities, limited channels, but I think now all the channels are all open, whether it's digital, whether it's, aggregators, or whether it's, in brokers doing it online, education to the customers. And in the pandemic, people have saved a lot of money also, right? I mean, on the other hand, some people have had job, issues, but people have also saved a lot of money in terms of, the avenues are right open there, right? And I truly believe the process online has also transformed, right? Again, it's one is making the right thing available at the right price or the right time. But again, the whole process has been pretty smooth. It's pretty seamless, right? So
Yeah.
I think kudos to people like you guys, from a technology standpoint, have made that possible.
Yeah. And like I think now we have close to like 30 million industry as an industry,
Mm.
30 million, 3 crore users in investments, right? That number probably was in lakhs, not probably, actually was
Yeah,
in lakhs, like
yeah,
three years ago, right? So we've
yeah.
seen phenomenal rise. And but you imagine like how much it could be because my ticket size is very small. And with that, I can get lots of people to make their money work harder. And that's what we, just like the industry we are betting on, and you will
Yeah.
see a lot of innovation from us in
Yeah.
that space.
I know we are, approaching time, but because I think again, curious to, touch, based on a few more interesting topics, right? Again, it may be more from an educational standpoint, right? Again, there are terms of super app, right? There are terminologies around embedded finance, right? Or again, the use of I know you spoke about use of voice, which will
Hmm.
be the next frontier or the next trend. But again, what about AI, use of AI and machine learning, right? Which is already maybe deployed. So if you can
Hmm.
touch a little bit upon, because this for me is the, for me, the last push, in terms of whether it's a super app, whether it's embedded finance or use of AI, right? So I'm curious to hear your thoughts from an industry perspective and from an Amazon perspective on
Yeah.
these three areas.
Yeah. No, from an industry perspective, right? What's important as we think about the future is that getting away from this one size fits all, right? That we should be able to give you and I'll take insurance example, right? Insurance that's tailored to you based on your habits, right? Based on what you do, how much you drive, and what kind of risk profile you have. As opposed to no matter what you do, there's only one price, right? Say for Amit. So that doesn't work. It's based on your car. So same thing for lending, right? On based on who you are, very, very specific, and then your sort of life cycle, customer life cycle. So I think where we talk about ML and AI, where it plays a role is really customizing the offering to you, to one person, individual, right? And then also making it instant and very relevant. So we are I think like just like industry, there's so many examples around, just not in fintech, in other industries where it's boiling down to one individual. And then that's the power of ML and AI that can do, right, for us. The other thing which is critical trend in the future is that just like people just don't have time to sort of go and, hey, I want a credit card and I should go and get it. I think the term embedded finance or something, which is to say you got to be where the customers are, and especially when it comes to payments, nobody is saying like today I'm like thrilled to pay, that I'm like getting up to pay something, I'm getting up to live my life, to buy my coffee, to go to work or do certain things, right? And then how do you catch them where they are? And some of our innovation that I talked about is really to catching them where they are. I think it's extremely important, right? That also plays a role in what we call embedded finance, embedded payments. The other thing I really think is, where it is today already playing out in some other parts of the world is that the payments or financial services will become almost transparent. Some like it'll just be kind of behind, right? In that, like for example, that you're doing something and then the payment happens in the background, right? In the case of Alexa, we are already seeing that.
Mm.
It just happens. But obviously, it has to come with very high security
Yeah.
and very high, and then using of biometrics, so that it's not about just remembering a PIN or getting a OTP. Is that can I use, and then there's a lot of innovation, right? My fingerprint or thumbprint is already there, to your voice imprint, to your face print, and a lot of other things, is to make it almost invisible payments with the same sense of security. So you will see a lot of these things, trends playing out, where it's got to be very personalized. It's got to be where the customer or where the consumer or small business is. And it's also got to be using new technology, right, for authentication, so that you don't even see payments, just like what you see today. So So those are some of the things that I feel like where industries you're betting on for the future.
I think you said it nicely that, which is also my point of view that, in terms of with all of these innovations, obviously there is a lot of innovation that needs to be done and is being done in making the whole authentication process, or from a cyber security or from a fraud perspective, because all of these things are giving rise to a certain set of customer behavior, right? And
Yeah.
in order for us to keep a check and control of that, while we are letting loose on a lot of, again, I don't know, KYC equivalent things to make the process more seamless for the customer, but there has to be certain checks and balances digitally or technologically that need to be put in place for us to also be secure from that standpoint, right? And I think
Right.
technology is playing a critical role in doing that. Yeah, so I think that has been extremely useful. And I think so. Vikas, any closing comments in terms of is there a new BNPL equivalent term that we are going to be seeing in 2022, or what is that going to be?
No, I mean, I think it goes down to the basics. I think it's a phenomenal right as an industry, and I'll see like what we've done last 5 years. I think the next 5 years is going to be multi, times better than what we've done last 5 years. So I feel super excited, super energized to be part of this journey, and I also say that the problem we are tackling is that it's so large that there will be many players that exist. We can build only when everybody comes together.
Yeah.
So I really look forward to it, and yeah, so it's exciting time.
Absolutely, and it's a part to be, privileged to be a part of this ecosystem, right? Again, in terms of where there are customers, there are merchants, there are technology companies, there are firms like Amazon, and I think if I would say 2021 was the year where the industry did a lot for customers. I'm sure 2022 we'll keep the ecosystem in mind and make sure that all the stakeholders are equally, taken care of, right? If not more, right? So again, a heavy statement, but a lot of responsibility for people like Vikas also to make sure that everyone thrives in this ecosystem.
Absolutely, 100%.
So Vikas, it has been a pleasure talking to you, and I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope some of the listeners who were listening to us also, I saw there were a lot of questions coming in. I hope we've addressed them, and thank you for the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, and thank you. You've been really wonderful, Amit, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to the audience for listening to us. I hope we were useful, and look forward to more interactions in the future.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Well, it was indeed a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Amit and Vikas, for taking time out from your busy schedule to join us today. With this, it's time to move on to our next session of the day. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
5 मिनट में अकाउंट सेटअप और ट्रेडिंग शुरू।
हाँ कर सकते हैं।
नहीं कर सकते।
लगी शर्त और हारा तो It's possible with CoinSwitch Kuber. Download करो और Bitcoin trading start करो. CoinSwitch Kuber. सिक्का चमकेगा.
Cryptocurrency is an unregulated digital asset, not a legal tender, and subject to market risks and price fluctuation risk.
Where there is life, there is hope, there is meaning. But life has its downs as much as its ups. Life is about challenges. Life is about opportunities. Time for joy, time for celebration, and time to introspect. Thankfully, in every one of life's moments, and even beyond life itself, there's LIC. Where there is life, there's always LIC. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi.
Welcome to Fago, a pioneer in the world of intelligent open finance. With our full-stack open finance platform, we enable companies to understand their users' financial behavior across various use cases, making finance engaging and actionable. Faygo's developer-friendly product stack helps clients with friction-free user onboarding and authentication using trusted account information. Connect and aggregate your users' banking transaction data from any source, either any of the account aggregators or directly from any core banking solution at flexible intervals. Enrich and categorize transaction data using machine learning algorithms to extract deep behavioral attributes of your users. Understand and act on real-time insights powered by your users' behavior for a variety of use cases ranging from lending, wealth, income verification, frauds, to even branding and marketing insights. Engage with your users by embedding our personal finance management SDK in your existing user-facing app to push positive financial habits and personalize financial insights to your users. If you are looking to engage or understand your user base's financial behavior to take informed decisions, Faygo is your perfect partner. With the complete Faygo suite, you can now capture what drives your users at every stage of their journey and use it to drive your growth. Plug into Faygo and let us do the heavy lifting for you.